If anything keeps you alive in life, it is home. September 2001. I was 23 when my husband, Major Avinash Singh Bhadoria, was martyred at the battleground. Barely 3 months after that life-changing incident, I was at Allahabad Army SSB. Few months later, I received my late husband's Kirti Chakra in my uniform. But life has its own way of teaching. One road accident, multiple fractures, more than a score of surgeries. Doctors declared I would barely walk and never run. So I pulled myself up for an 8-kilometer walk every day. Because you know what? Courage is to act when you are pushed against the wall. And when life pulls the trigger, it's time for the run.
Today's guest needs no introduction about herself. However, her life reminds me one of the famous quotes from Bhagavad Gita, verse number 22, chapter 7. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktaha Tasyavaradhanam Ihate Labate cha tata Kamana Maya vai Vihatiha tan. Endowed with faith, the devotee worships a particular celestial god and obtains the objects of desire. But in reality, I alone arrange these benefits. That's what the meaning of this verse is. Despite being life full of challenges and difficulties, obstacles, her only mantra with a smile on her face was, "Let may what come in my way. I will conquer all these odds and become a winner in my life." Captain Shalini Singh has transformed her life from a wife of martyred gallant officer of the Indian Army to a successful politician as on date, with versatile roles like becoming an officer and successful beauty pageant of Mrs. India accolade. With other many roles, she has been an inspiration to many of us, including youth and the serving officers of the Indian Army. I, Shaurya, on behalf of The Ladder Podcast Channel, welcome you all to this unique, inspirational and exciting episode in series of interviews. A very warm welcome, ma'am. Indeed, it's an honor and privilege to host you on our podcast channel, and thank you so much for the opportunity, ma'am.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Shaurya, and it's my privilege to be here and connect with all of you.
Ma'am, to begin with the interview, can you tell us about your brief before joining the armed forces, ma'am?
So I will go back to my days where while I was in my college, then there came a marriage proposal from armed forces family because I was in the army. And since I was doing my graduation, I think I was too young to get married, but my parents felt that the life in army is very different and it's a very what we have seen in civil is not like that, and you have a very great life. And so they were very much insisting that I must meet the guy and move ahead in life. While I was still studying, and though I was not very ambitious in regards to my career and all, but though I did wanted to study and do something for my life. And when I met, you can say it was love at first sight. We both met each other, and it was always like, yeah, we wanted to be together. And then took that call and that, okay, I'll continue with my studies, and we got married because Major Avinash Bhadoria. And yeah, that is how that was my first step in the army, that I had never seen anything what army is all about or what defense forces is all about. My husband was the first person whom I have met as an army officer or seen a way of life in army through him. We were posted at Jamnagar, and that was the only family station I had seen with him. And while we were in Jamnagar, I was continuing my studies, and I also gave birth to a baby boy after 2.5 years of my marriage. And after that, my husband went on posting to RR unit, Rashtriya Rifles. He was posted to 8 RR. And from there, I came back to Kanpur and started staying with my in-laws. And then something after his posting to RR, something happened which was not really what anybody could have thought of, but which is the worst fear of any army family. army parents, or siblings, or spouse. We had a very unfortunate news that we lost Major Avinash in terrorist encounter in Jammu and Kashmir, Doda, Jammu and Kashmir. So from there, the life completely came crashing down for me and my son. My son was 2 years old that time, and I was also very young, 23-year-old. I was as a spouse, and my son was 2 years old. So life completely took a backseat, and it became as if we don't know what to do next. And I was completely traumatized and completely in shock what to do. And somehow it happens that even if you're trying to be strong, but there's so many people trying to console you, convince you that even their words and actions sometimes make you more weak. What will you do? How will you lead your life? What will happen to you? Who will take care of the child? So even I was also feeling that no, I won't be able to lead this life because now he's not there. What will happen to me? Because as a woman, as a lady, as a girl, I had a very shielded upbringing in my family. When my father was there, my brother was there, and then I got married at a very early age. So all those things gave me a lot of kind of a very shielded upbringing, and made me very delicate and weak. Where I didn't have the courage to stand up alone. I didn't have the courage to step out alone, or if there is any setback or challenges or anything which life has not done accordingly to our planned thing of actions, I was not prepared how to take it forward or how to deal with it. So I was in a very traumatized situation, and I was just thinking that I don't want to live, and I just want to give up in life. So that was an extremely bad phase, or you can say sad phase, whatever term it wants to be. Because even today, if I sit and think about it, I really get those goosebumps, because I feel that fear in my heart that I was so scared that time. How will I lead this life with the child? And then few of my husband's postmates and his seniors, they met me and they told me that my age is less. I'm within an age bracket where I can go ahead and join the armed forces. So initially, I thought that they are just making fun of me, because see, I had never seen any lady officer. I've never met, because with just one tenure with him, and my husband was an infantry officer, and I was not aware of any such entry for women officers. But I felt that okay, if they have told me something, I asked them that I'm very weak physically. I don't have that mental strength, that physical strength. How will I do it? So they said that you have to do it, ma'am. We were just telling you that there is a way where you can stand up again. You can be that person which you want to be. You don't have to be weak. Your husband has done something so great for this nation. He has become a symbol, an icon of strength and courage. So you can't be so weak, and you can't just give up in life. So with that thought, I slept with these thoughts for a couple of days, and then you can say within a month of his demise, I took that call that okay, I will go ahead and I will try to join the defense forces. I will give the SSB. I will, whatever it takes, I will go ahead and join the army. So within 6 months of his demise, I cleared my SSB. Whatever were the required formalities, I did, and I reached academy in March 2002. That was the life before joining.
That's very inspiring, and hats off to your courage that you have been through such tough times. But we would like to know, ma'am, during the graduation you had to decide about getting married to Major Avinash. So how did that decision came up with you, and how did you continue your studies?
So see, if I tell you honestly, I had not much of a say in taking this decision that I want to get married or I don't want to get married, because in my family, like we belong to a Rajput family, and the girls don't have much say. I'm talking about 97, and now still we have become very modern and we can talk about things. But at that time, lot of decisions were with the family. Though I'm very thankful to my parents that they gave me an equal upbringing with my brother. But a lot of things where the girl had a little say, or she was not treated at par with the boy. So when this marriage proposal came, so the decision that I should get married was rested with my parents. And that is why I told you, I thought I will speak to Major Avinash that, okay, you only say no, I don't want to get married. But when we met, we felt that no, I think we are made for each other, we should go ahead. So, and that is how this decision happened. And the best part was that he did tell me that you have to continue with your studies, and we are not compromising on your educational life. And when my husband got martyred, even then I was pursuing my post-graduation at that time when he left us.
As you said, it was love at first time when you met Major Avinash. So how was the journey after that as a lady when you were married to him, ma'am?
Yeah, that's a very beautiful question. Actually, I will say it was like a dream come true. Though often I say that I never even dreamt of such a beautiful life with him. So it was a very, very short life what I spent with him. But I think that those were the best days and best months or years, whatever we want to say. A lot of love, respect, everything I got with him. And the best part was that he showed me how the army is, the way of life is. He taught me many things. He told me many things. And army is not what I'm showing you here. It is much, much more. And we have a very unpredictable job, a job where I may be there today, but I may not be there with you tomorrow. So you have to be prepared for every situation. That he used to tell me very regularly. Maybe he was always trying to mentally make me aware. I don't know why, but yeah. But the life with him, I cherish it even today. I think I am very thankful that I could spend those important years of his life and my life together. And also the kind of courage he has displayed and the kind of work he has done. I think I consider myself very fortunate to be his spouse even for a very short duration.
Great, ma'am. Could you just tell about the operation and the situation under which Major Avinash attained the martyrdom, ma'am?
Yeah, so it was on 28th September 2001. He was posted with 8 Rashtriya Rifles in Dota, Jammu and Kashmir. It was 1 year of his posting was already over, and I think there was they got some news that there is some kind of terrorist hideout and all. So he went with his patrolling team, and they at the night, I think it is 27th and 28th night, and I did speak to him on 27th evening. One day prior, I had spoken to him on a phone call, and we just had a very routine normal call. Once or twice a week he used to call. So at that night, I think he went for that with his patrolling team for that to check out that terrorist hideout. And there was a cross firing, and he killed 4 terrorists. And but I think in that part he did get injured, and he lost his life there only. We couldn't meet him, and that was the most unfortunate part that we didn't have during his last time. We were not there as a family with him. But yes, we feel as a very proud of whatever he has done. It took us a lot of time to really understand that what he has done and how courageous a task he has done, because at that time we were just grieving for losing our family member, spouse, brother, son. But at the face of it, we do realize the kind of act he has done is not that easy work, where he gave up, he sacrificed his life and saved his team and killed those terrorists. So this is how the CI Ops has happened, and he was awarded Kirti Chakra posthumously for his act of bravery for his sacrifice.
indeed, we are all very proud of him, ma'am, and we are in debt for his service to the nation, ma'am. Although we have heard in many of your interviews that this news was hidden to you and you were taken as a surprise to the location over there. But how did you cope up mentally after that, ma'am? I'm not talking about reaching the location. After that, once you were done with all the last rites and all, what was the thing that going on your mind? And
So see, as I said in the first question, it is not easy to cope up with these things. If you ask me, at the back of my mind, even today, this trauma is somewhere there in my subconscious mind, right? The way it happened, everything happened in auto mode. It felt like the way I got the news, the way then everything, like there were so many people around taking care of the last rites and everybody trying to console and convince and just trying to support, provide all the kind of support. So at that point of time, I was not able to process what is happening around me, what has happened suddenly, and you are never prepared to lose your spouse like this at least that someone find in only with 3-4 years of marriage. So for me, it was extremely difficult to put my thoughts together that he is not there with me. I was not able to believe that he is not there with me. I was thinking that no, he will come back, he will come and stand with me, he will make a phone call, and people are like, no. So even when I saw his body, lifeless body, even then I was not believing that it is his body, So as a spouse, I was in a great shock, and I was not able to process the things that what is happening around me. So it was a trauma, very big trauma, but at the same time, because I had a very small child with him and I had to take care of that child. So for me to get back and sit and think that what I have to do next for that, I would really like to thank his postmates and the seniors and his unit officers who stood by me and who provided me all kind of emotional and mental support to understand that what has happened with me, because it was not easy for me to cope up. I was not seeing anything and not knowing, because what my parents had told was that army life is there's something which is very luxurious, very glamorous, very relaxed, and what I was put into was something where my husband has just left. He has lost his life, he has been injured, he's got gunshot wounds, all these things were like too much for me to process, so it was not easy to cope up with that.
In this difficult and challenging time, ma'am, how did this decision of joining the OTA as an officer while Dhruv was very young, in fact, he was infant. So how did you decide this, that you would want to become an officer? And how did the family support you in this decision?
To join the army, this decision, as I said, that his unit officers did mention to me, his postmates did mention to me that because I'm under that age bracket where I am eligible, and my educational qualification is mental or physical strength, stamina, exertion. So, but when I was sitting alone at night and I was grieving, crying, sitting, holding my son, I was just thinking that I'm sitting at a dead end. I've lost my husband. I don't want to live further, but I have to stand up again. I have to take care of my child, and so why not move ahead with this, where I have been shown you may say a ray of hope, a ray of light, that I'm standing at a dead end, but maybe I can find a light if I take this step of joining the army. It was I was not sure whether I'll be able to do it, not do it. And when I discussed it with my family, his parents, my parents, so everybody was very unsure, because they thought that maybe because of the trauma I'm talking like this. I am not sure what I'm speaking, because they all have seen me as a very delicate person, and because the decision came very quickly. It was like just less than a month of his demise that I took this decision that no, I will move ahead and join the army. I think it was just 3 weeks of his demise when I told that I want to go ahead and try to join the defense forces, go and give the SSB. So the family supported me, but they had a very mixed kind of feeling whether I will be able to do it, I will not be able to do it. And they told me that if you're not able to do it, don't worry, we are with you, nothing will change, we will always support you. So yeah, it was completely left on me that how I want to take it ahead, and it was very. I was also very scared, but then in my mind I was very clear that it is like do or die situation. I have to do it. I have to do it anyhow. I have to do it.
Absolutely, ma'am. I'm sure your inner calling was very true and genuine. That's why you could reach whatever you have attained so far. So, as we are aware, ma'am, OTA is considered to be one of the toughest academy amongst the three officers academy. So, how was your training and how could you cope up with the schedule?
Yeah, I think you are right, because I think the training period is truncated. What we are doing at NDIMA, I'm not comparing anything, but yeah, it was a very short span. In 6 months, they are making officer from out of completely from those people who are not aware what this training is going to be all about. So when I reached academy, I was maybe you can say I was completely foolish that after reaching academy, I have become an officer. Not knowing that what is going to come in the next 6 months. So when the training started, it was extremely difficult for me because the kind of physical and mental exertion I was being put to, everybody was going through the same thing, but I think I had a kind of trauma, a baggage which I was carrying with me, and leaving my small child behind with my parents. So it was very difficult for me to completely put my heart and soul into the training and not remember what has happened with me and how I've landed here and now what all I have to do. But when the training started, there was no respite for me, and I think I was put into a much harder training schedule to take that thing out from my mind that now you are no more an officer's wife and you are here to become an officer, and you are here as a cadet, and the cadets don't get any kind of special treatment. Whatever is your background, you don't have any concern from that. And this is the training and you are going to do it. So it was very difficult for me. Even 2-3 times in the first week I thought I won't be able to do, what will I do if I'm not able to cope up with the things. But then slowly as days passed, I was sure that there's no going back from here. If I will go out from this academy, I will become an officer and I'll go, otherwise I'm not going back. And at the same time, I always like to take a moment and thank my postmates, my instructors, drill ustad, everybody who were very, I can say, very patient with me at that point of time to support me with all the required training, and they really punished me a lot. Everybody was like, but at the same time, yeah, whatever I am today, whatever training I have attained in the academy, I give all the credit to my entire personality, to the training I have received in the armed forces.
Post commissioning as an officer, your life must have turned in a better way. Like earlier you were lady, then a cadet, and all of a sudden now you are an officer in the same organization, ma'am. So how was the condition around you, and what was the feeling for you?
So the day I got commissioned, it was a very mixed feeling, because I am getting that uniform after losing something very important and precious of my life, right? I never wanted that uniform. I always wanted my partner to be with me, but now he's not there, and I have the uniform. So it was a very proud feeling, but at the same time very emotional moment for all of us. And at the same time, people who were seeing me as a very weak person, that what will she do now, how will she live, suddenly the perception changed. The moment I had the uniform, the moment those stars were picked in, suddenly people started seeing me as a very strong person. Okay, she's very strong, she has done it. And now when I joined my unit, when I got commissioned, I joined my unit. So there also, because my story was already known there, that okay, I'm officer's widow, and now I joined the army. So it really took a lot of effort for me to work hard and prove that okay, I'm not here as an officer's wife, now I'm an officer. and I'm not taking any advantage of that, and it is completely out of my mind. And it I can say it was not that difficult, but at that point of time, because there were not many lady officers, especially those lady officers who have lost their husband and joining army. I think I'm the third or fourth, or if not more than that, the number was that only. So the acceptance took some time from the government, from the troops, or from the people nearby, but I will say everybody had a lot of respect. They all supported me the way they wanted to, and I had to put in a lot of hard work to prove myself that no, this is not Shalini Singh who is coming here as a wife of Major Avinash Singh. I am now a commissioned officer, and I will put in my effort, heart and soul to my assigned work.
Ma'am, these days, despite having the social media and a lot of connectivity options, we generally see that the cadets who join the academy are psychologically weak, that they will be missing their parents, girlfriends, and all. So, in your days, there was no social media at all, and with the Dhruv being very small, how did you cope up that specific duration as a separated mother, and that too undergoing a training schedule, ma'am?
Trust me, it was the most difficult time, because not only social media, we did not even have mobile phones. If I tell you specifically that there was no easy way of communication, there was just a landline phone, one phone where everybody has to talk. So I actually did not had any kind of communication from my son for the 6 months. Only was that every week my mother used to send a handwritten letter and a picture of my son of every week, photo that okay, this week he's looking like this, and this next week he's looking like this. So every week I used to receive a letter from my parents from Kanpur. It was very difficult, I've never left my child. Even my child was so small, but then it was in safe hands, because I had left him under the guardianship of my parents. So I knew that they will take care of him the way they have taken care of me, or even they will put in more efforts. And so not easy thing. The 6 months in academy away from my son, I met him on the day when we had our passing out ceremony, and after like 6 months I saw him. That was the longest separation I had till date.
How was your feeling at the ceremony when you were about to receive the Kirti Chakra for Major Avinash, ma'am? What were the emotional and sentimental feelings going in your mind?
While you're asking me this, I'm again getting goosebumps. Extremely a proud moment, and at the same time very emotional moment for me. I had tears in my eyes, but at the same time I was beaming with pride that okay, I am going and standing in front of our president in uniform and receiving his award. And even the president applauded our efforts, our courage. I think it remains the most cherished memory and the most proudest moment of my life. I couldn't have paid tribute to my husband in a better way than walking to the podium and receiving his award in my uniform. I completely understand that not everybody can wear uniform and receive the award for their family, for the officers who lay down their life. But going there in uniform and standing, it gave me a kind of feeling that I've become the medium. It is him receiving the award, and I'm just the medium. A very emotional moment for me that day, extremely emotional. And receiving that award, I think that day I realized that what has he done. Till that time, it is the grief of losing your partner. But when I got to hold that award, that gallantry award, I realized what it means to sacrifice your life for the nation.
Absolutely, ma'am. And when everything was going fine, like you were commissioned and you now working as an officer and all, so how did this decision of changing the career all of a sudden came to you, and what was the thing that made you decide this?
Yeah, so I completed my 5 years of contract period with my short service commission. I had an option of taking an extension, but while my son was very small and my parents were taking care of him, at the same time, I did feel that I have to be more. I have to give more time to my son, and Army had given me a way of life. Army had taught me how to live my life confidently. It has given me it has showed me a lot of various ways how one can stand up again. So I took that call to take VRS and move in the corporate route. I did my MBA, and then I went into the private sector. I worked in the corporate sector for 14 and a half years.